You're 31, renting a one-bedroom with a couch you found on the curb that smells like someone else's dog. Your checking account has $214 in it. Not because you had a bad month, because every month is the same month. You keep telling people you're figuring it out. What you mean is you're not. You open Reddit at 11 at night and fall into a thread about 7 money habits that apparently changed some guy named Kevin's life. He has charts, a graph that goes from zero to something real. You read the whole thing 3 times. Then you close the app and stare at the ceiling. Then you open it again. You give yourself 90 days, 7 habits, one at a time. What you find out is that 6 of them are fine. One of them is a different thing entirely. Habit 1 is tracking. Every dollar, every purchase, down to the $1.89 bag of chips from the vending machine you buy when you're not even hungry. You download an app and spend the first week entering things manually because you don't want to give it your bank login. Paranoid about a free app while you have $214. That's where you are. By day 4 you have a number, not a rough idea, not a vibe. A number, $3,847. That's what you spent last month. On what, you want to know? Coffee twice a week, subscriptions you forgot you had, 2 streaming services for shows you haven't watched since the pandemic, a gym membership that charges on the 3rd regardless, $12 a month for an app you used one time in March. You've been telling yourself you have no money. What you actually have is no accounting. Here's what tracking does to you that nobody mentions in the thread. It makes the invisible visible, and the visible unbearable. You can't unsee it. You see $47 in delivery fees and feel like a man who lit cash on fire while complaining about the cold. Every transaction is a receipt for a decision, and some of those decisions are embarrassing. That's the point, not guilt. Information. You don't feel motivated. You feel like you've been running a business with no books and calling the losses bad luck. The tracking doesn't change anything yet. It just shows you the shape of the whole. Habit 2. You automate $100 into savings every time you get paid, not after bills. First, before you can argue with yourself about it, the first month is fine. The second month, rent is due and your check is thinner than usual because you picked up fewer hours. The $100 pulls out anyway. The automatic transfer does not care about your context. You dip to $14 in checking for 3 days, you survive it. That's the thing about automating savings that nobody explains. It's not a saving strategy, it's a psychological trick. You're teaching yourself that the money was never really there. That $100 is just gone now, not spent, gone. And gone is easier than deciding every month you decide is a month you're one bad mood from skipping it. Habit 3 is a no spend week. 7 days. No restaurants, no random online orders, no nothing that isn't strictly necessary. Day 1 is easy. Day 2, you're bored and you know the exact bottle of whiskey you'd buy right now at the liquor store 3 blocks down if you weren't doing this. Day 3, a coworker invites everyone to lunch and you say you brought food, which is a lie, and you eat the protein bar you found in your desk drawer that has been there since before that coworker even started. It tastes like chalk and a specific kind of regret. By day 5, you've saved $83. Not life-changing, but here's what you notice. You've been spending money to manage your mood, not for things, for feelings. Boredom, stress, reward. The habit isn't the spending. The habit is the emotion underneath it. Habit 4 is cutting subscriptions. You cancel 6 in one afternoon, $147 a month. You feel like you found money in a coat pocket, except the coat was your checking account, and the money was just leaving quietly every single month while you looked away. 2 of the 6 you can't even remember signing up for. 1 requires you to call a number during business hours to cancel, which is a design decision that should carry criminal penalties, and you spend 22 minutes on hold to stop paying $8.99 a month for a meditation app you used 3 times total. The irony does not escape you. You're stress sweating on hold for the meditation app, $147 back. That's $1,764 a year you were just quietly hemorrhaging. It doesn't solve the problem, but it's a leak you didn't know you had, plugged. Habit 5. You open a brokerage account and put $50 in it. That's it, $50. An index fund the thread kept recommending. You pick it because 7 different strangers on the internet all said the same name, and you have no better information than that. The first week it goes down $3. You check it every day like a man watching a sick plant. By week 3, it's up $1.12. You take a screenshot. You send it to no one. But something shifts slightly in your head. You now have a stake in something that isn't your apartment or your car or your cracked phone. You own a piece of something, technically. It's $48, less than a tank of gas. But it doesn't feel like nothing. Habit 6 is meal prepping on Sundays. 4 containers of rice and chicken, same thing, 4 days, lunch handled. You do this for 3 weeks and save about $180 in lunch spend. You also lose your mind a little by Wednesday eating the same cold rice container at your desk while your coworker eats a burrito bowl that smells like a better life. The meal prep works. The math is real. $180 is $180. But what you notice is that this habit requires you to be a different kind of tired than you already are. Sunday tired is supposed to be recovery tired. Now it's prep tired. There's a version of financial discipline that is just adding more labor to a life that is already mostly labor. You file that. You're not sure yet what to do with it. 6 habits in and the math is better. You've plugged leaks. You've got $100 automatically leaving every paycheck. You've got $50 in a brokerage account doing something or nothing depending on the week. You've got a spreadsheet that tells you where the money actually goes instead of where you thought it did. And all of it helps. You'd be lying to say it didn't, but you're still managing. You're not building. There's a gap between those two things that none of the first 6 habits crossed. The tracking tells you what you spent. The automating keeps the savings from being a choice. The subscriptions are gone. The lunch is cold rice and low-grade humiliation. You're doing everything right on the list. You still feel like a man treading water. Then you find habit 7. Habit 7 isn't on anyone's list. You find it in a different place. Not a thread, not a channel. You find it in a conversation with your uncle. A man who retired at 58, drove a 10-year-old Camry his entire working life, and has more money than anyone in your family suspected. You're asking him about investing. He ignores the question. He asks you one back instead. How much do you make an hour? You tell him. He does the math out loud, slowly. That lunch you bought yesterday, he says. How many minutes did you work for that? You say 12, maybe 13. And how long did you enjoy it? You say about 11 minutes. You ate it fast at your desk while answering emails. He lets that sit there for a while. 13 minutes of work? 11 minutes of experience? Net loss. Not in money, in time. He doesn't say anything else for a while. He just lets you run the math on everything you bought that week in time instead of dollars. The $6 coffee, that's 6 minutes of your life you worked and handed over. The parking ticket, 22 minutes. The streaming service you keep forgetting to cancel. 7 minutes a month, automatic, compounding. The $1,100 in credit card debt you've been carrying 2 years. That's not a number anymore. That's hours. Real hours of your life, already spent, still being billed on a schedule. You look at your checking account differently after that conversation. Not as money, as time you already gave away. Here's what changes. You stop asking whether you can afford something. You start asking what it costs in hours. The two questions sound similar. They are not the same question. Can you afford it lives in the balance. What does it cost in hours lives in your actual life running in real time underneath all the transactions. You make $22 an hour before taxes. You bring home about $15. So everything you buy costs you time at $15. The couch you want from the furniture store downtown, not the garage sale couch that smells like dog, it's $800. That's 53 hours of your life. You make that calculation, and your feelings about the couch change. Not eliminated, recalibrated. You start doing it automatically, for everything. You're at the phone store looking at an upgrade you don't technically need. New phone costs $1,100. Before, you ran the monthly payment. $46 a month? Fine, whatever. Now you run the hours. 73 hours of your life. Nearly 2 full work weeks. For a phone that does mostly what the current one does, just faster, with a better camera for photos of food you eat alone at your desk. You put the phone down. The salesperson is confused. You're not. You walk out. You don't feel virtuous about it. You feel like you made a trade that makes sense. That's different from discipline. Discipline is resisting what you want. This is just clear vision about what things actually cost when you price them in the one thing you can't manufacture more of. The reframe cuts both ways. It's not just what you spend, it's what you earn. You're getting paid $15 an hour after tax. That's what every hour of your Monday costs. Every 8-hour day is worth $120 to you. A full year of your time at this rate, working full weeks without vacation, is about $31,000 take home. That is the number. The actual price tag on a year of your life at this income. You write it on a piece of paper and tape it inside your desk drawer where you'll see it when you reach for a pen. Not to terrify yourself, to anchor yourself. That number isn't permanent, but right now it's real. And real is what the other 6 habits never quite gave you. You start thinking about raises differently. $1 an hour raise is not a small thing. It's $2,000 a year. You go to your manager and you make the case. You have data. You've been tracking things. You know your output. You've been logging quietly for 8 weeks with a spreadsheet nobody asked you to keep. The manager gives you $1.50 an hour. You say thank you and mean it. Not because $1.50 is transformational, because you understand now that the ask was always available and you were leaving it on the table every single pay period. The money wasn't hiding. You weren't looking at it in hours. You started looking at everything in hours. You start looking at the side too, not because the thread told you passive income is the answer, because you have a clear picture now of what your hours cost and what they're worth in different rooms, and the gap between those two numbers is where everything lives. You pick up a freelance job writing product descriptions for a small e-commerce brand, $18 an hour, more than your job after tax, 3 hours on Saturday mornings while most people are still in bed, $54 in time you weren't monetizing. It's not a business, it's not a strategy. It's 3 hours on a Saturday that used to be phone in bed time. You're not scaling anything. You're just starting to see what your time is worth to people who need something you can already do. And it turns out that number is higher than the one on your badge. Here's what Habit 7 does to the other 6. It makes them legible. The tracking you already do, now every line item has a time cost attached. The automated $100 isn't just a savings transfer anymore. It's almost 7 hours of your life secured before you can trade it for something forgettable. The $50 in the index fund is 3.5 hours working for you now instead of for a subscription box you never opened. The subscriptions you canceled, 47 hours a year handed back. The meal prep rice you hate on Wednesdays, that's 12 hours of your Sunday buying back 60 hours of your work weekend saved lunch money. The math starts to connect, not abstractly, specifically, with your hours attached. What changes isn't the spreadsheet, it's the inside of the spreadsheet. You stop feeling punished by budgeting. You stop feeling virtuous about it either. It just becomes clear. A transaction is a trade, time for thing. Sometimes the trade is worth it. Sometimes it isn't. You buy the good coffee on a Friday, not because you budgeted a treat, because 11 minutes of real enjoyment for 6 minutes of work is a fair trade and you can calculate that now. You eat the rice on Monday because 3 hours of your Sunday is worth more to you than the same 3 hours spent paying for a burrito bowl at your desk. These aren't rules, they're calculations. And the calculations come from something real about your actual life, not from Kevin's Reddit chart. The thing nobody says about financial change is that shame doesn't compound. It drains. You can white knuckle a budget for 3 months. You can skip the lunch, cancel the app, eat the rice. But the first 6 habits were all operating on the surface. Spend less here. Save more there. Plug the leak. Good. But the leak isn't money. The leak is attention. The leak is living inside your balance instead of inside your life. What Habit 7 did was pull the frame back. Not to make you feel small. To make the whole picture visible. To show you that the question was never about the balance. The question was always about what the balance represents. And whether the trade that built it was one you'd choose again with clear eyes. You still have $214 in checking sometimes. Some months are still the same month, but the shape of it is different now. You know what the $214 is? You know what it cost in hours and what it's positioned to do. You know what the $100 auto transfer represents in real time. You know what the $50 in the index fund means when it moves 1%. Not abstractly. The gap between what you earn and what you traded for is where you work now. Not with shame. Not with discipline as punishment. With a clear view of a trade happening in real time every single day. Whether you pay attention to it or not. 90 days end. You look at the numbers. You've saved $847 more than you would have otherwise. You've got $183 in the brokerage account doing something small and real. You've cut $147 a month from subscriptions you'd been funding on autopilot. You've made $162 on Saturday mornings. None of those numbers is freedom, you know that. But all of them together represent a direction, which is different from where you were 3 months ago sitting at that desk hoping Kevin's graph applied to you. The habits didn't give you a different ending. They gave you a better question. Not how do I spend less? How many hours is this, and is it worth them? The couch still smells like someone else's dog. The checking account still dips. The salesperson at the phone store probably thinks you're indecisive. Your uncle's Camry is still running. You're still doing the Saturday morning freelance work. Still eating the Wednesday rice. The index fund is up $21 from where you started, which is either nothing or the beginning of something, and you're not sure it matters which one yet. You opened the app this morning. The $100 transferred automatically. You didn't feel it leave. That used to scare you. Now it just means the 7 hours it represents are working somewhere else while you work here. And somewhere in the gap between those two things is a number that isn't $214.